Criminal trial of Sam Bankman-Fried set to kick off tomorrow. It is, of course, a trial, some degree of cryptocurrency. We'll see the FTC founder and former CEO facing 7 counts of fraud after the collapse of his crypto empire. Next guest has been following the fallout closely, sat down with Bankman-Fried and his family. Her latest piece uncovers the unique relationship between Bankman-Fried's parents and how they played a role in all of this. Here with a preview of what to expect as the trial begins, New Yorker staff writer Sheelah Kolhatkar. Good morning to you.
Hi, good morning. It
was a fun story. You talk about the role of the family, and you talk about the role of these parents. They have not been charged in this case, and I've always been curious. Do you think that they would be, or what do you think their real role was in this? Because there was a suggestion in the piece that they had some kind of role, but not necessarily that you put it all the way there.
Well, I think their most important role regarding Sam was the way they raised him, which was pretty unique and interesting. He was treated as a genius, very special, intellectually precocious kid from the beginning. And they are both very accomplished themselves. They're professors at Stanford Law School, huge bodies of academic work that both of them have produced. And they really went out of their way to kind of cultivate his intellectual gifts as a kid. And he ended up growing up in an environment where he felt like he was very smart. The world would care a lot about what he had to say and what his contributions were going to be. And to be perfectly honest, I don't think they intervened too much with what he was doing. Certainly at the beginning of his career, they really felt confident that he was going to find some very important calling and pursue it. So I think you could make the argument that maybe they should have intervened more early on. And
well, the question is, should have they known to intervene, and could have they? You know, you went on a walk or a hike with his mother, and if I remember, there's a quote in the piece that suggests that she could never really see him doing anything wrong. In some ways, you describe the way you like a lot of parents to make their kids feel in terms of making them feel special. Everybody wants to feel special.
Sound
but the question
familiar?
is, when does it get pushed too far?
Well, that was one of the most powerful moments I experienced with his parents, is because, I mean, I'm a parent. I think probably most of us here are parents. Yep. We've all been shocked by things our kids have done. And I certainly remember as a teenager, my parents being a little startled to discover certain things that I was doing. So I was fully expecting her to tell me, when I first read about this, I was stunned. I went to my son and I said, Sam, is any of this true? And it was remarkable to me that she told me she never even had to do that. She never confronted him and said, "Did you do any of these things?"
But they also benefited financially, which is the other issue. Right. All of us may have been surprised by things our kids have done. None of us have benefited so enormously financially from those same mistakes or outright fraud.
Yeah, no, you are right. They certainly did benefit financially, and I would say socially and in their other activities. I mean, Barbara had a political action committee that was very successful, but that received support from Sam and his coworkers. And of course, Joe was directly working at the company for a time. Right. I mean, to go back in time and put it in their perspective, I do think that at that time, they felt that their son was this incredibly successful multi-billion-dollar tech mogul, and the idea of taking certain things from him was perhaps not completely outrageous.
We're going to have to run. It's a great piece, and everybody should go read it. But my question to you is, do you anticipate either Sam and or the parents testifying in the trial?
I think there's a strong chance Sam himself will testify. I mean, he's in a little bit of a losing situation either way. If he doesn't testify, his cooperators are going to testify for him. And if he does, we can imagine things getting very spicy.
What about the parents?
I certainly have heard no indication that they will be called to testify, but they are not out of legal peril themselves.
Okay.